Good evening, everybody. This meeting is now called to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Corman?
Here.
Mr. Pavoni?
Here.
Ms. Perez?
Here.
Mr. McIrvin?
Here.
Ms. Witchy?
Here.
Mr. Person?
Here.
Mr. Print?
Here.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, all present.
Okay, thank you, Jason. First item on the agenda is a special presentation about the Renton Regional Fire Authority ballot measure. And I think we have Chief Marshall coming up.
Good evening, members of the council and Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you about the Regional Fire Authority ballot measure. As most of you know, beginning in January of this year, Chief Peterson assigned myself, Lieutenant Will Aho, and Lieutenant Gary Harsh to handle this RFA project. Really, we spent the majority of the time thus far on public information and outreach. And to date, we have contacted over 124 different organizations. We've presented to 32 groups. And what I'd like to share with you this evening is the presentation that we put together for those community groups itself. So first of all, it's what we do. Your fire department responded to nearly 15,000 calls in 2015. That's on average of 41 per day. And it's easy to know that the fire department responds to fires. But we also respond to a variety of other emergencies. We respond to emergency medical calls, and a variety of those, everything from minor injuries to heart attacks and strokes. We respond to car accidents. In fact, every fire engine has the Jaws of Life on it, and every firefighter is trained on how to use that. We respond to hazardous materials spills and releases. We have a water rescue team that responds to emergencies both on and under the water, and we have a technical rescue team that responds to such emergencies like structural collapse in the event of a major earthquake, and to rope rescue calls. Back in 2008, the City Council adopted a target response time for being able to reach emergencies within 7.5 minutes, 90% of the time. Since that time, we are facing a situation where over the last 4 years, in each of those 4 years, we have not met that goal for 4 out of the 6 fire stations that we have. And in fact, last year, 5 out of the 6 fire stations did not meet that goal. This slide illustrates the response times for the given stations. And one of the things that I'd like to point out is Station 12, which serves the Renton Highlands and the North Renton area, has a response time that is almost a minute over that goal. So another challenge that we're facing is that the population in Renton, we've seen, continues to grow, and it's estimated it's going to grow by almost 40% in the next 20 years. And with that population growth comes not only increased calls for service, but as most of us have seen, it brings with it traffic congestion, and that traffic congestion also has a direct impact on our response times. I'd like to illustrate here the population growth that we have actually seen in the city since the year 2000. And in addition to that, the green line illustrates for you the amount of taxes that we get per individual taxpayer in Renton, which has actually decreased at a time when our calls for service have continued to climb. And in this graph, I can illustrate that just like the population has continued to grow, so have our calls for service. Since 2011, we've actually seen an increase of over 2,000 calls for emergency services in our department. At that same time, you can see that we have not added any additional firefighters, and when we don't add firefighters, really what that's saying is we're not adding additional equipment and additional response apparatus to handle that increased call volume. One of the questions we're asked is, well, what have you tried to do thus far? And there are a few things that we've been able to do. We eliminated 2 fire inspector positions and 1 deputy chief's position. Now, with that reduction in fire inspectors also comes a reduction in fire inspections that we're able to do. And I'd like to give you just one brief illustration of how we see that impacts the community. We like to think of our fire inspection program as one that partners with really our business community. And most of you are familiar with the fire that occurred a few months back at 2nd and Main. Now, in that fire, we lost 2 businesses, 2 restaurants for sure, and heavily damaged another business behind it. If you drive by there at this time, you'll see that it's really nothing more than a parking lot with the building being removed. Now, that fire was determined to have been caused by improperly used extension cords, and that's one of the things that we look for when we're conducting those inspections. As a result of that, we have a Renton business owner that no longer has a source of income. We also have a Renton business owner that is no longer providing us with sales tax revenue, and we have a property owner that's no longer providing us with property tax revenue. So in that, everyone becomes the loser, and this is one of the examples of where we really feel like we want to get back in a position where we can partner with our community. In addition to that, we've eliminated our public outreach programs. We're not able to get out nearly as much as we want to into the schools and into the community. And we've consolidated our training efforts. We've actually joined a South King County training consortium that allows us to still deliver the required training, but in a more cost-effective way. We've delayed equipment replacement, but with equipment replacement delays, we find that our maintenance costs are going up, and as well as our reliability. And if there's one thing that we do not want is to deal with reliability issues with emergency equipment. And finally, we sought SAFER grant from federal grant funding to the tune of $3 million over the last 5 years. The federal government recognized with the downturn in the economy that local governments were having a hard time funding emergency services, and they came up with a grant program to which we were recipients. But as the economy has started to turn around, that funding is drying up, and our funding, which essentially has allowed us to maintain that flat level that I showed you, and 9 positions, goes away this July. So with these challenges before us, the City of Renton and King County Fire District 25, which is one of the contract agencies that contracts for fire service with the City of Renton, looked to address this problem. They looked not only internally, but they went out to the citizens, and in January of 2015, they created a Citizens Advisory Committee. In the end, all the parties involved felt that the best option available was the option of a regional fire authority. Now, Regional Fire Authority is a special purpose district that has its own separate funding system. It's nothing new anywhere in the United States, and in fact, currently there are 9 of them in Washington State alone. This proposal will be put to the voters for a special election on April 26th this year. The proposed RFA really means 2 things to citizens within its boundary. First of all, it means that there is going to be planned service improvements. It also means, though, and we want to be very clear about this, that for the majority of homeowners and property owners, it's going to mean that they will be asked to pay an additional amount than what they are currently paying. So when we talk about what we're proposing as increases in service level, if this RFA is adopted, the City of Renton has agreed to construct a new fire station in the North Renton area, which, as I had pointed out earlier, is really being impacted and is creating some real impacts with the station that currently serves that area, Fire Station 12. Once that station is constructed, the Regional Fire Authority will staff that new fire station with a fire engine and 3 firefighters. It will also allow for increased staffing in our Benson Hill Cascade area of a full-time aid car at Fire Station 13. It will restore those previously eliminated fire inspectors and to allow for public education, which gets us back into the more proactive approach of partnering with our community. And so what will happen if this ballot measure is approved on April 26th, July 1st, the RFA will come into existence, and essentially all of the assets, the personnel and the assets of the fire department will transfer over to the fire authority, which will then take on the responsibility of managing fire and emergency response operations for King County Fire District 25 in the city of Renton. There will also be a new funding structure that's put into place, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. And it will change from its current governing structure to a governance board. Here's an illustration of the change in that governance board. And you can see that what will happen is representatives from both King County Fire District 25 and the City of Renton will make up a new governance board that will direct the fire chief. And it's also important to point out that this governance board is made up of the elected officials of these current jurisdictions now, and that really is to provide for direct accountability from the fire department from those that are currently elected to represent their communities. I talked about this new funding structure. It has two components to it. First of all, it has a new fire benefit charge, and then it also has that existing component of a modified property tax, and I'll go through that. But again, it's important, and we want to be completely upfront about this, that in nearly every case, this is going to mean that citizens, property owners, are going to be asked to pay more money for the services that they get. So the fire benefit charge is this new unique fee, and it's based on square footage of property and some of the other factors like the number of firefighters that it takes to respond. And so it deals with structures and their size, not with their value. It can comprise up to 60% of the total operating budget for the Regional Fire Authority, but we've seen from experiences that it generally runs somewhere between 45 and 50%. Like I said, it's based on square footage and the resources necessary. So what you're going to see is a 2,000 square foot house, regardless of how old it is or how much its value is going to pay the same amount for a fire benefit charge. And this is because it's the same fire resources that would be required to deal with an emergency there. In addition to that, it has factors in it for like commercial occupancies that are a little bit higher because commercial occupants by their very nature take more fire resources to put out fires that occur there. It does have the same discounts available to it for low-income seniors and for disabled persons. And that the rate for the fire benefit charge is set annually as a part of the budget process through open public hearings. And lastly, the fire benefit charge needs to come back to the voters every 6 years for reauthorization. And we feel that this is a very good opportunity for our community to hold us accountable for the promises that we're making and to really be good stewards of the money that they are allowing us to have. So the tax, like I said, there will still be a property tax component. The Regional Fire Authority, by state statute, will take $1 per thousand of assessed valuation of the homes. Now that will replace the current $1.50 that King County Fire District 25 citizens are paying. And for the City of Renton, it's going to be a little bit different. In the first year, the City of Renton is going to hold on to about 61 cents per thousand that they're currently paying, and that is going to go to fund the construction of that new fire station. Once that construction is done, the city is going to reduce that cost to around 20 cents per thousand, and that's to handle some retention costs and some of the obligations that the city has. They're going to be retaining emergency management that currently resides with the fire department, and there are some pension and firefighter retirement issues, obligations that they need to continue to maintain. I've got an illustration here of what this means to the average citizen. This is an illustration in King County Fire District 25, where we have a 2,100 square foot house with a $348,000 assessed valuation. Currently, for fire protection alone, they're paying $522 a year. That's for this year. When this when this would go into effect with the Regional Fire Authority, you can see the blue bar would illustrate the dollar per thousand of assessed value that would go to the RFA, and then the new fire benefit charge, which means that this house will have an increase of $87 a year, or about $7 a month, for fire and emergency services. In the city of Renton, as I was explaining, there's this similar type house is paying $560 for fire and emergency services. The green line illustrates that there is the 61 cents that the city will retain for construction of the fire station. The blue line is that new $1 per thousand, or that's the $1 per thousand that transfers over to the Regional Fire Authority. And then on top of that is the new fire benefit charge of $261, which you will note is the same as the previous example, because we're, again, basing it on square footage. Now, in the following year, in 2018, because the funds have been collected for the construction of that fire station, it drops down, and that $70 in that green is what the city will retain of the current funds that they get. We will collect the dollar in the Regional Fire Authority, and then the $261 for the fire benefit charge, for a total increase of $118 annually, or just over $10 a month. Here's a couple of examples of commercial properties as well, and you can see that this number is a larger figure. And again, as I explained earlier, really what this is based on and what drives this is the fact that these structures take more fire resources. And here's a similar comparable property in the city of Renton, and you can see that we are asking our business owners to really have a considerable contribution in 2017 towards the Regional Fire Authority and providing added service to our community. For more information, we are really encouraging everyone to go to our website at rentonrfa.org. There you can find all the information that I've provided you with this evening. It also has contact information that you can get a hold of me or any of my staff. We're happy to answer any questions that may come up. And really, lastly, what I want you all to know is that we know in the fire department who we work for. And regardless of how this vote goes in April, we take great pride in the service that we deliver to our community, and we're going to do our very best to work with whatever resources we have before us. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Rick. Council have any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Corman.
Yeah, forgive me if you touched on this and I missed it, but my understanding of having the additional fire station, in addition to the fact that our population is growing, and even if you were fortunate enough to be right next to, say, Fire Station 12 in the Highlands, if that engine's out on another call and you have an emergency at your house, this extra station is going to help, right? And
Absolutely, and we refer to it as really station reliability. And one of the things that's happening, if you can, the location of Station 12 in the Highlands. Station 12 has to handle a very large area that goes from the landing all the way out to VMAC and the Seahawks Training Center, and well up into around Union Avenue on the east side. And so by providing an additional fire station and a fire unit to handle that, it reduces the number of calls that Station 12 is going on, which allows really, it impacts the entire service area, and it puts fire units closer to where the emergencies are in their geographical area. So we really believe that we're going to see a significant impact, significant reduction in response times for Station 12 in the Highlands, as well as the North Renton area. And it even then carries out into, because Station 12 gets pulled out of service, there's only one engine east of us, and that's engine 16. And so we're having some real struggles covering those areas as well. So it really is going to have a dramatic effect on the entire
kind of
city.
ripples through the system.
Through the entire system.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good, thank you.
Great.
Okay, Rick, thank you very much, and thanks to you, Gary and Will, for all the work you've put into this. It's been, the whole authority is a complicated process, and you've done a great job of breaking out all of the information and providing it to both the business community and the residents, so
Mr.
thank you
Mayor, I
very
did have
much.
one question.
Yes.
I noticed the Prop 1 signs around town. Are those available to everyone? And if so, where do we get them?
It's your sign.
Yeah, I believe that the firefighters local could probably
Okay.
help you with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. We're all kind of smiling.
That deer in the headlight look was,
The type of thing that we don't,
the best thing would be to do is call a firefighter local and they can
Yeah.
help out.
Okay.
Well, and Mr. Mayor, it's probably worth the discussion about that. So every time we have a ballot issue, we allow an opportunity in the city council to have it explained. Do we have any opposition statement planned?
the voters pamphlet does have an opposition statement
Okay.
by
But
somebody from Kent.
But I just wanted to clarify, so this will
Just
this will be the one and only time.
Right,
that-
this was tonight, was just information only. If the council chooses, you could have, we could invite the pro and the con people
Oh,
back.
if
But
you
we
were
want,
actually-
tonight was just information only.
Okay, this is
Right.
informational. Okay, so and I don't know if the time's kind of short. I don't know if the council needs to have that kind of forum. We're not required to.
Right.
But I just wanted to clarify. So the reason we all just stopped was because the campaign itself is presumably going to generate materials, but that won't be discussed or looked at here.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that you have had to open houses for the public. One in the school, the high school.
Correct.
And another one in 13, Station 13. I wonder how, if you have a lot of public coming.
We actually have not at the open houses. We've had a lot of success with the homeowners associations. Turnout has been sparse thus far. We have one more tomorrow night, the 22nd at the Renton Senior Center at 7 o'clock. So I'd encourage anyone and everyone to come out and meet us and ask any questions that they might have. So we have had 3 open houses, or we've had 2, and we have one remaining.
So did I understand correctly, the 2 previous ones, they were not popular?
It wasn't that they weren't popular, it's just that they weren't well attended.
Oh,
If you would allow me to make that correction.
How any presentation, Rick, that you make is not popular is beyond me. It just doesn't fit.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, this information, is it currently on the city's website, or can we make sure it is? Or?
Yeah, we have a special website for it.
Right.
We just had the slide up. Rick, can you back that up?
There's a link on the city's website that will link you to the rentonrfa.org, and there we have this presentation, frequently asked questions, other information that I think we found is people have generally asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been able to, the city's been very helpful with media, and we've been out on the city's Facebook page and the
Great.
fire department's Facebook page, so, we're doing what we can to get the
I
information
think,
out.
I mean, I found over 2 decades of doing this that the more we put stuff on the website, the less people we see at these open houses. Often they find the information and they're happy, so they save the evening for something else.
Yeah, the reason that I ask you is because I look for, on your Facebook, I look at on last Tuesday, and I couldn't find it. So, but it's okay.
I'll have a conversation with my staff.
It's okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, thank
Good
you.
job.
Okay, moving on to a public meeting. Angie.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Angie Mathias, and I'm a planner here with the city in the Department of Community and Economic Development. I've been before council presenting on annexations many times, but it's been actually quite a while since we've had one be submitted. And we have lots of new council members, so this is my first time before this council this year. So I'm very pleased to be here with you all. So the annexation that has been proposed is called the Bradley annexation. And the annexation process is a very long process, and sort of the purpose of this is to just demonstrate that this is very, very early on in the process. At this point, it really is just something that's proposed. The petitioner has submitted a 10% petition. That's signed by 10% of people who are property owners that represent 10% of the assessed value of the area. In order for it to become a true annexation that is a truly proposed annexation is when if they manage to circulate a petition that's signed by 60% of the folks that are people that represent 60% of the assessed value, then it's an annexation that's the official one that merits your full consideration. At this point today, we're meeting with the petitioner. I don't believe that they're in attendance, but you're required to hold a public meeting. And that's what we're doing here. And then you're considering whether or not you'll authorize them to circulate that 60% petition. So as I stated, we're required by state law governing annexations to hold this public hearing or public meeting. At this meeting, you'll decide whether to accept, reject, or geographically modify the proposed annexation. You can add area or take away area as you decide. That's entirely up to you. If you do accept the proposed annexation as it's proposed, you would also then authorize the circulation of the 60% direct petition and decide whether or not to require simultaneous adoption of the zoning, and that's typically what we do. So the location, the contrast on here is sort of difficult to see, and I apologize for that, but you can see that it's located at the eastern portion of our city, out in the East Renton Plateau Community Planning Area. It is within our potential annexation area. We have 3 of them. It's our eastern portion in the East Renton Plateau Community Planning Area. It's about 17.5 acres in size. Its uses currently are single family and vacant. The boundaries are to the north, roughly southeast 142nd place. The east uses parcel lines, so does the south. And then to the west, it's at approximately 154th place southeast. Here's an aerial image of the annexation area, the proposed annexation area, and you can see there's at least a few very large parcels in the annexation area. This one over here is about 1 acre in size, to give you some perspective. And then here's 156th Avenue Southeast running through the annexation area. So I always look at the existing conditions in the area to sort of give us some background information. The topography of the area, it actually does have some steep slopes. This red is in the area of between 40 and 90%, and that's where we would start to, our critical areas regulations would apply. We would regulate these slopes, and that'll come into play later when we talk about zoning. Environmental, in terms of streams and wetlands, there are no wetlands in the area or nearby, but there is an unnamed stream that runs to the west of the area. It's approximately 200 feet away. We've changed the way that we classify streams now with our last update to our critical areas. So now this is considered to be a type NP stream. That means that it's non-fish bearing and it's perennial. So public services, currently the area is served by Fire District 25. If the area were to annex, it would be served directly by Renton Fire, but that also would change potentially if there's Fire 30 is approved. And I don't know how all that would necessarily play out with decisions moving forward with this area. Utilities, Water District 90 currently serves the area. That would not change with annexation. Renton Sewer is the assigned sewer provider. That would not change. However, we're not currently providing sewer to this area. Schools, it's served by Issaquah School District, and that would also not change upon annexation. It would remain in the Issaquah School District. So we always look at how the county currently has it designated in terms of its comprehensive plan and zoning. It's designated with the potential to be zoned between a range of 4 and 12 dwelling units per acre with urban residential medium, and the county has elected to zone it with R4 zoning, allowing 4 dwelling units per acre. This slide is different than what was available in your drop boxes earlier today. It's an error that I corrected in that it previously indicated that the entire area was pre-zoned at R4. That's actually not true. There's a portion that matches where those steep slopes are that is pre-zoned with R1. And we did that work in 2007 when prior to the area voting on annexation, when that whole large East Plateau had that large annexation vote, that they declined annexation. This is obviously a much, much smaller area, but rather than revisit zoning, we're just proposing that we adopt that pre-zoning that was put in place. And that pre-zoning is reflected in this map with R4 on that sort of olive color and then R1 on that brighter green. And if they do come in, that zoning becomes effective when they come into the city. So we always review our current annexation policies in our comprehensive plan. Our goal, one of our goals of our land use element, is that we promote annexation where and when it's in our best interests. And then to implement that, we have policies. And our policies related to annexation are that we support annexation where infrastructure and services allow for urban densities, and where we can consolidate service providers or facilitate the efficient delivery of services. And as stated, this is in the rent and sewer service area, so it really is an efficient delivery of services, and we consolidate some of our provision. We also are called and asked to consider the fiscal impacts for each proposed annexation. And we will look at the fiscal impacts coming up. The Boundary Review Board, one of the steps of the annexation process, one of our requirements is that we submit to the King County Boundary Review Board for their evaluation and consideration. So before we, if we can see in advance that it might be something the Boundary Review Board wouldn't approve of or wouldn't like, we would try to head that off before. So the relevant Boundary Review Board objectives related to this annexation is that does it use physical boundaries, such as water, highways, land contours, those sorts of things. And this annexation only uses parcel lines and roadways, so those are rational, reasonable physical boundaries. Does it create and or preserve logical service areas? The service areas are previously agreed to, but they're not changing upon annexation. Does it prevent abnormally irregular boundaries? Although this boundary does look a little irregular, it's not irregular when they talk about that objective. They're really talking about, are you just following roadways to get to something, and then it's a large annexation. It's anticipated that over time, the East Renton Plateau area, that potential annexation area, would eventually all come into the city. And so the Boundary Review Board does understand that a lot of these things are incremental, and that sometimes those boundaries are not the most perfectly squared off or perfect boundary that you could ever dream of. And then is the annexation of an unincorporated area to a city that is urban in character? And of course, Renton is an urban city just by the nature of it being on the inside of the urban growth boundary. So here's our fiscal analysis. We do this with all annexations, all proposed annexations. The current conditions are that there are 33 dwellings within the annexation area and an estimated 92 residents. We assumed for future conditions that there would be an additional 18 dwelling units based on that pre-zoning that's in place, with an estimated additional 51 residents. And then as a conservative measure, we estimate that the costs will increase annually by 3.3%, but revenues will increase at only 2.5% annually, and then that's limited to just sales tax, utility tax, and the franchise fees. So to the operating fund, revenues existing are about $26,000, with costs at closer to $27,000 for a difference of about $600 negative under existing conditions. At year 10, we assume that those future conditions with that additional 18 houses or dwelling units, we assume that would take place over the course of about 10 years, and that's where that year 10 is considered, with all of those additional changes in costs and revenues, that the revenue and costs would actually flip, but just slightly by about $30 at year 10. And then capital and enterprise funds are a little different. The revenues are about $14,000 currently, with costs only about $6,000, and then revenues at year 10 at about $24,000, with costs at about $12,000 at year 10. So as part of the process, after we receive that submission to the clerk's office of that 10% annexation proposal, we circulate it to all the different city departments and ask for them to comment and review and ask them, is this a logical extension of your services? Do you have any concerns? Are there any points that you would like to make about this annexation as it's proposed? All departments indicated that it's a logical extension of their services and that they had no concerns as it's proposed. In conclusion, the annexation as proposed is in the best interests and general welfare of the city, and it represents a logical extension of our services. It's consistent with our adopted annexation policies, and it's consistent with Boundary Review Board criteria. The recommendation of the administration is that the council authorize the circulation of the 60% direct petition to annex, and then specify that property owners accept the city's zoning as they formally come into the city. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Angie. Any questions from council? Yes, Don.
This area is currently on septic system.
I believe that it all is currently on septic. There's occasionally some that are real close to the city limits that that are allowed to come on to city sewer, but to my knowledge, the whole area at this point in time is on septic.
Will the new development be required to bring sewers in?
New development would be required to hook up to sewer, correct. However, existing property owners that are on septic would not be required to hook up to sewer unless their septic system is determined to be failing by the King County Board of Health and the sewer is within reasonable area to their property. So for this area, that would be determined as, I don't know exactly where the current sewer lines are at this point.
My concern on that is, as we all know, that septic tanks leach out. You have steep slopes and it leaches out, and that has caused along that same bluff area landslides in the past. So
The sloughing of the septic systems.
sloughing off of the septic.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any current problems in that area with septic. My understanding is that the Board of Health reviews those fairly frequently, and would sort of hopefully be heading that off if those were concerns that had been raised.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jason, do we have any correspondence?
No correspondence, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, this is a public meeting. Is anybody here that wanted to testify on the annexation proposal? Any wish of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Prince.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Prince, second by Mr. Corman. We close the public meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Prince.
I move that the council authorize circulation of a 60% direct petition to annex.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Prince, second by Mr. Pavoni, that council authorizes circulation of the 60% direct petition to annex. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you very much.
Did the council intend that to also include the city acceptance of the city zoning?
I believe.
Yes.
Ed just didn't get a chance to
I didn't get a
say
chance
that
to say that part, but yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Got it. Paused. Somebody was right there.
He paused
with
and Armando
the-
took charge.
You gotta you gotta not take a breath.
I know.
Okay, moving on to administrative report, Mr. Covington.
Mr. Mayor, Council, a couple of things. Wanted to just let the council and the community be aware. Staff is working with Food Lifeline to prepare some after-school snacks and evening meals to youth and teens that attend the Center for Recreation Programs. This is up in our Highlands Neighborhood Center. And that's been fairly successful. The program is offered Monday through Friday from 3 to 9 p.m. In addition, staff's been working with our Renton Police Department by having one officer spend an hour to an hour and a half a week with the kids playing big games or pickup basketball or whatever he and the kids like to do. The goal is to have an officer stop by each day, and so we're working on that. We appreciate the police department officers taking time to interact with the kids up there. Continue to have traffic work, and this weather is difficult, but if the weather does clear, we've got some overlay projects and some other construction. Just want to let folks be aware. We're continuing obviously on Main. Chelan Avenue, possible lane closure there as we do some survey monument work. Union Avenue in front of 2001, we're trying to install some utilities. 156th, we've got some development work there. We're really trying to get that street resurfaced, and that's just totally on weather permitting. Working on Northeast 4th between Garden and Hauser Way, and Sunset Boulevard North underneath I-5. We're working on some curb lane improvements, as well as Logan Avenue. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Covington. Before we move on, I wanted to just add a couple comments in regards to the homelessness issue that you heard through Committee of the Whole. I really wanted the council to understand that this is a real high priority with us in terms of trying to effectively address the homelessness crisis. And it clearly, as you know, is a huge crisis. It's a crisis across the entire country. And people are trying to get their arms around it to figure out what's causing this huge increase. And I think, Mr. Kerman, you were talking about some of the things that clearly are fueling it, and that's higher rent costs, things of that nature. Apparently, a $100 increase in rent can put people out on the street, and it's an unbelievable phenomenon. And we do have a number of people that are suffering from chemical dependencies and mental health issues that no matter what you provide them, they're not accepting the help. But what we're trying to do as a city is not just let it fester like some other municipalities have done, to where it gets to a point where it's out of control. And so I appreciate Chief Milosevic and Kelly Beamer and Karen Bergzik's report to you, because what I want that to show is that we have an interdepartmental effort to everybody get on board and to address this as proactively as we can. We're identifying every spot that tends to be a magnet for these types of issues. We're posting them and following the legal requirements in terms of giving people notice to move on. We're cleaning them up and trying to figure out what we can do to prevent the recidivism and the return of that problem. We're trying to direct as many people as we can to services, and we are using some subcontractors or agencies to help with some of the cleanup until we understand the magnitude of what we're looking at. And what we'd like to try to do is get in front of it and reduce the number of problems that are cropping up. But you know, it's just an ongoing effort that we're going to address, and we're not going to. I know Mr. Person asked a couple of times about resources. It's an important issue, and so we are making it part of our work plan. But I can guarantee you that if none of the jurisdictions are finding any relief and any help, and this continues to become a bigger issue, we definitely will be coming to the council with recommendations in terms of additional staffing needs, whether it be in police, public works, or community services, to be able to address that. So we're taking a very comprehensive approach to addressing this issue, and we're going to be giving you regular updates on what we're seeing and the progress that we're making. And we're working with all of the other jurisdictions to try to identify sustainable programs to reduce the incidents that we have. We're one of the only cities that's been very proactive with going as far as to putting the Center of Hope, for instance, downstairs to help women and children that are homeless. And we've had tremendous success with of helping a lot of families and getting some of them to a level of independence. So anyway, I didn't want you to think that we're going to be shy about not only keeping you informed on what's going on, but also if we need to allocate more resources, we're absolutely going to do that. So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
okay. Okay, we have nobody signed up for audience comment. Was there anybody that did get a chance to sign up that wanted to address the council? Okay, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 4 items for council consideration. Are there any items council member would like pulled for discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Corman.
I move approval of the consent agenda as published.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Corman, second by Mr. Pavoni, that the consent agenda be approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, unfinished business, Mr. Corman.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Pavoni.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 committee reports to present.
Transportation Aviation Committee, committee report. Temporary road closures for the Sunset Lane Northeast Improvement Project. The Transportation Aviation Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the periodic temporary road closures for Phase 1 and Phase 2 as summarized below, and adopt a resolution authorizing these closures to accommodate construction required for the project. Phase 1, up to 120 calendar days to take place beginning spring 2016. Sunset Lane Northeast from the library to Glenwood Avenue Northeast. Glenwood Avenue Northeast from Sunset Lane Northeast to Harrington Avenue Northeast, and Harrington Avenue Northeast between Sunset Boulevard Northeast and Northeast 10th Street. Phase 2 up to 90 calendar days beginning summer 2016, which is Sunset Lane Northeast from the library to Northeast 10th Street, and Northeast 10th Street between Harrington Avenue Northeast and Sunset Boulevard Northeast. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
I move that the council concur with the recommended action of the Transportation Committee.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Perez, second by Ms. Witchy, that council concur with the Transportation Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the final Transportation Aviation Committee report. Airport T hangars rent increase. The Transportation Aviation Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the Consumer Price Index urban increase in the monthly rent for the airport T hangars from $393.62 to $462 even, including leasehold excise tax, effective April 1st, 2016. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
I move that the council concur with the recommended action of the Transportation Committee.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Perez, second by Ms. Witchy, that council concur with the Transportation Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
That will be it. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Mr. McIrvin.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The Utilities Committee has 4 committee reports.
Okay, Utilities Committee, committee report. Mitigation agreement between the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife and Renton for the Cedar River Maintenance Dredge Project. The Utilities Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the mitigation agreement between the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife and the city of Renton for the Cedar River Maintenance Dredge Project to provide mitigation for the impacts related to the project. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
I move that the council concur with the Utilities Committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. McIrvin, seconded by Ms. Perez, that council concur with the Utilities Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the next Utilities Committee report is regarding a request for water service transfer from King County Water District Number 90 related to the Chelan Creek development. The Utilities Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the transfer of water service for the properties described below to a new city water line that will be installed by the Chelan Creek development. The committee also recommends the waiver of the water system development charges for the subject properties, since the properties will not gain additional benefit from the transfer of water service. The addresses are 973 Chelan Avenue Northeast, 960 Chelan Avenue Northeast, 964 Chelan Avenue Northeast, and 922 Chelan Avenue Northeast. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
I move that the council concur with the recommendation of the Utilities Committee.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. McIrvin, seconded by Ms. Perez, that council concur with the Utilities Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the next Utilities Committee report is regarding a franchise agreement with Level 3 Communications LLC. The Utilities Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to authorize the mayor and city clerk to enter into a franchise agreement with Level 3 Communications LLC as a purveyor of broadband telecommunication services within the city of Renton. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
I move that the council concur with the recommendation of the Utilities Committee.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. McIrvin, seconded by Ms. Perez, that council concur with this Utilities Committee report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the final Utilities Committee report is regarding the Olympic Pipeline franchise agreement. The Utilities Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to authorize the mayor and city clerk to enter into a new franchise agreement with Olympic Pipeline. The committee further recommends that the ordinance regarding this matter be presented for first reading. The agreement becomes effective 5 days after publication. Signed by the committee chair and members.
I move that the council concur with the recommendation of the Utilities Committee.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. McGurven, second by Ms. Perez. The council concur with the Utilities Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, thank you. Ms. Witchy.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Person.
No unfinished business.
Okay, Mr. Prince.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Moving on to resolutions and ordinances. We have 2 resolutions and 2 ordinances for first reading.
Okay, the first resolution is regarding the street vacation in the Sunset Lane area. A resolution of the City of Renton, Washington, setting a hearing date to vacate portions of right-of-way in the vicinity of Sunset Lane Northeast, Harrington Avenue Northeast, Northeast 10th Street. That's for April 11th, 2016.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Corman.
I move adoption of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Corman, seconded by Mr. Pavoni, that this resolution be adopted as read. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And the next resolution is regarding temporary street closures for the area around Sunset Lane. A resolution of the City of Renton, Washington, authorizing the periodic temporary closures of Sunset Lane Northeast, Glenwood Avenue Northeast, Harrington Avenue Northeast, and Northeast 10th Street for the Sunset Lane Northeast Improvement Project.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Perez.
I move the resolution be adopted as read.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Perez, seconded by Mr. Corman, that this resolution be adopted as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the first ordinance regarding, or for first reading, is regarding a franchise agreement with Level 3 Communications. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, granting unto Level 3 Communications LLC, authorized to do business within the state of Washington, its affiliates, successors, and assigns the right, privilege, and authority to install communications facilities, specifically fiber optic cable and related appurtenances, under, along, over, below, through, and across the streets, avenues, and alleys of the City of Renton within the public right-of-way of Renton.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Corman.
I move this ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Corman, seconded by Mr. Pavoni, that this ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the final ordinance for first reading is regarding a franchise with the Olympic Pipeline Company. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, granting Olympic Pipeline Company an interstate corporation incorporated in the state of Delaware, its successors and assigns, a non-exclusive privilege and franchise, subject to the terms and limitations provided in this ordinance, to construct, repair, replace, operate, and maintain its existing 20-inch, 16-inch, and 12.75-inch diameter pipelines, together with equipment and required appurtenances beneath the rights-of-way within and through the City of Renton, Washington.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. McCurran.
I move that the ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. McGurven, seconded by Mr. Prince, that this ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, moving on to new business, Mr. Corman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'll announce it formally later, but there will be a executive session following the regular meeting. Then I also wanted to identify that we'll have a committee of the whole meeting on Monday, March 28th at 5:30 p.m. in the council conferencing center, or in the conferencing center, excuse me. We have 3 items on that agenda. The first is regional issues. Second is downtown revitalization, general economic development update. And the third item is Sunset Lane latecomer agreement. And
Okay.
that's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Pavoni.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Public Safety Committee will meet on Monday, March 28th at 3:30 in the council conference room. We have 2 items to discuss. The first is countywide emergency communication system briefing, and the second is emerging issues in public safety. That is all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to refer the topic of sound transit projects in Renton, including proposed ST3 projects and any connections to Link Light Rail, to the administration for a briefing in Committee of the Whole. And that will be it.
Second.
Okay,
Yeah, I needed a motion.
it's been moved by Ms. Perez, seconded by 6 others, that we move the topic of Sound Transit and specifically Sound Transit 3 projects for the administration to present to Committee of the Whole. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McIrvin?
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Ms. Witchy?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Community Services Committee meeting scheduled for March 24th has been canceled.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Person?
No new business.
Oh, you
Oh,
got a
no,
lot.
no, take that back.
That's because he's going on
We're
vacation.
going on vacation. Anyway, the Finance Committee will be next Monday at 4:30 PM in the council conference room, and there is 5 topics. 2016 carry forward budget adjustment, Highlands House demo contract, lease amendment with Amazing Grace Lutheran Church, vouchers, and emerging issues and revenue streams. And they're going to do that all in 1 hour.
Okay.
Because I'm not there, they'll be able to do it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Prince?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Planning Development Committee meeting scheduled for March 24th has been canceled.
Okay,
That is all,
thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
Mr. Corman?
You've already,
Yeah, we're ready to move on.
yeah. Oh, okay. We're ready to adjourn into executive session, or did you
Yeah.
want to ask about audience comment?
No, that was it.
Oh, forgive me. Okay, so you're ready for a motion to
Ready for
adjourn? Okay, good. So I move that the council meeting recess into executive session for approximately 30 minutes to discuss litigation with no official action to be taken, and that the council meeting be adjourned when the executive session is adjourned.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Corman, seconded by Mr. Prince, that we recess into executive session for approximately 30 minutes to discuss potential litigation. No action to be taken, and the meeting will be adjourned following the executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.